Entangled Hearts: A Journey Through Love, Betrayal, and Redemption. The warm glow of the evening sun filtered through the lace curtains, casting intricate patterns on the wooden floor of Emily's cozy apartment. She sat by the window, a cup of chamomile tea cradled in her hands, gazing absent-mindedly at the bustling city streets below. The hum of life outside contrasted sharply with the turmoil that churned within her heart. Emily had always believed that love was a straightforward path, a journey walked hand in hand with the one person who understood your soul. But life, she was learning, had a way of complicating even the simplest of beliefs. Emily and Alex had been together for 6 years. Their lives intertwined like the roots of an old oak tree. They met during their final year of college, both studying literature and sharing a passion for words that could move mountains. Their connection was instant, a spark that ignited a flame, warming the coldest corners of their hearts. Alex was attentive, kind, and his laughter was a melody that Emily could listen to for hours. They spent their days exploring bookstores, discussing poetry, and dreaming of a future filled with love and shared adventures. 3 years into their relationship, Alex proposed on a starlit beach, the waves whispering secrets as he slipped a delicate ring onto Emily's finger. It was a promise of forever, a tangible symbol of their unbreakable bond. But as the initial excitement settled, the realities of life began to seep into the cracks of their once perfect relationship. Emily started taking Alex for granted, the daily routines dulling the spark that once shone so brightly. It was during this time of quiet discontent that she reconnected with Daniel, a close family friend she had known since childhood. Daniel was everything Alex was not: spontaneous, daring, and carrying an air of mystery that intrigued Emily. He was the kind of man who could make the mundane seem extraordinary. And being around him made Emily feel alive in ways she hadn't felt in years. One evening, after a family gathering, Emily and Daniel found themselves alone, reminiscing about old times. Laughter flowed easily between them, and as the night wore on, the line between friendship and something more began to blur. A lingering glance turned into a gentle touch, and before she knew it, Emily found herself entangled in an affair that would change the course of her life. The guilt was immediate and overwhelming. Every time she looked at Alex, she saw the trust she was betraying reflected back at her. Yet, she couldn't deny the thrill that came with being with Daniel, the sense of freedom and the escape from the monotony her life had become. It was a dangerous dance, and Emily was spiraling deeper into the web of deceit. Eventually, the truth surfaced, as it often does. Alex discovered the affair, his world shattering like glass hitting concrete. The pain in his eyes was something Emily would never forget, a mixture of betrayal, hurt, and a profound sadness that cut deep into her soul. He ended the relationship, leaving Emily to grapple with the consequences of her actions. In the months that followed, Emily was consumed by regret. The absence of Alex in her life was a void that nothing could fill. She realized that the excitement she sought was fleeting, but the love she had lost was irreplaceable. Determined to make amends, she reached out to Alex, begging for a second chance. It wasn't easy, but after countless conversations and heartfelt apologies, he agreed to try again, laying down strict conditions to rebuild the trust that had been broken. One of his conditions was that Emily would sever all ties with Daniel, a request she agreed to without hesitation. She was committed to making things right, to proving that she could be the partner Alex deserved. For a while, things seemed to be improving. They went to couples therapy, worked on communication, and slowly, the pieces of their relationship began to fit back together. However, fate had other plans. Daniel reappeared in Emily's life unexpectedly at a mutual friend's event. The familiarity was comforting, and despite her promises, Emily found herself slipping back into old patterns. This time, she convinced herself that maintaining a friendship with Daniel was harmless, that she could control the situation. She kept this renewed friendship a secret from Alex, knowing deep down that it was a betrayal of his trust. When Alex discovered that Emily had been in contact with Daniel again, the fragile foundation they had rebuilt crumbled. He felt the sting of betrayal once more, and this time, his response was firm. He laid out a series of demands, a strict set of rules designed to protect himself from further hurt. Emily felt suffocated by these conditions, questioning whether they were fair or too harsh. Yet, she agreed to them, desperate to salvage what was left of their relationship. Life moved forward. but the strain between them was palpable. Emily threw herself into her work, trying to distract herself from the tension at home. It was during this time that she met Michael, a new colleague who was everything she thought she wanted. Tall, charismatic, and possessing a smile that could light up a room. Michael was an escape from the complexities of her personal life. They started off as friends, sharing lunches and discussing projects. But as days turned into weeks, an undeniable chemistry developed between them. Emily knew it was wrong, she was engaged, and Michael was married. Yet, the forbidden nature of their connection only intensified the allure. They found solace in each other, both feeling trapped in relationships that no longer fulfilled them. One evening, after a late-night work session, Michael confessed his feelings. He spoke of how he couldn't stop thinking about her, how being with her made him realize what was missing in his own marriage. Emily was torn. Part of her knew that pursuing this relationship would lead to more heartache. But another part of her yearned for the passion and excitement that Michael offered. They embarked on a clandestine affair, convincing themselves that they were soulmates who had found each other against all odds. Emily rationalized her actions, telling herself that this was different from her past mistakes, that she was in love. And love justified everything. She distanced herself from Alex, neglecting the commitments she had made to rebuild their relationship. As the affair progressed, Michael began to pull away from his wife, causing strain in his own marriage. He promised Emily that he would leave his wife once his finances were in order, painting a picture of a future where they could be together openly. Emily, blinded by emotion, believed him wholeheartedly. Meanwhile, Alex sensed the growing distance between them. He confronted Emily, asking if there was someone else. Faced with the truth, she confessed her feelings for Michael, telling Alex that she was no longer in love with him. The pain of her words hit him like a tidal wave. But this time, there were no tears or attempts at reconciliation. Alex quietly accepted her decision, his gaze heavy with disappointment but also a sense of finality. Emily felt a mix of relief and sorrow. She was free to pursue her relationship with Michael, but at the cost of hurting someone who had once been the center of her world. She tried to push the guilt aside, focusing on the new life she was building. However, the illusion of happiness was short-lived. Rumors began to circulate at work about Michael's involvement with multiple women. Emily brushed them off at first, convinced that she knew the real him. But when Michael's wife discovered his infidelities, the truth came crashing down. Not only had he been unfaithful with Emily, but he had been entangled with several other women as well. Feeling betrayed and humiliated, Emily confronted Michael. He offered empty apologies, but it was clear that she had been just another conquest. The future he had promised was nothing more than a mirage. Heartbroken and alone, Emily was forced to confront the reality of her choices. In the aftermath, she reached out to Alex, hoping for some form of comfort or perhaps even a chance to make things right. But Alex had moved on, his trust in her irrevocably broken. He told her that while he would always care for her, there was no path back to what they once had. Sitting alone in her apartment, Emily reflected on the series of decisions that had led her to this point. She realized that she had been chasing fleeting moments of excitement, sacrificing the stability and love that had been right in front of her. The pattern was clear. She had been sabotaging her own happiness, perhaps out of fear or a lack of self-worth. Determined to break the cycle, Emily decided to take a step back from relationships altogether. She sought therapy, wanting to understand why she had made the choices she did. Through introspection, she began to uncover deep-seated insecurities that had driven her actions, the fear of not being enough, the need for external validation, and a reluctance to face her own flaws. Therapy was not an easy journey. It forced Emily to confront uncomfortable truths about herself. She had to accept responsibility for the pain she had caused others and herself. But with each session, she felt a weight lifting, replaced by a growing sense of self-awareness. Meanwhile, life continued around her. Alex found happiness with someone new, a woman who appreciated him and offered the stability he deserved. Hearing about his new relationship was bittersweet for Emily. She was genuinely happy for him but also mourned the loss of what could have been. As months turned into a year, Emily focused on rebuilding her life. She reconnected with old friends, pursued hobbies she had long neglected, and even took up painting, a passion she had discovered in college but had abandoned amid life's chaos. The colors on the canvas became a reflection of her journey, bold strokes representing her struggles, soft hues illustrating moments of peace. One day, while attending an art exhibition, Emily met Daniel again. It was a chance encounter. Both surprised to see each other after so much time had passed. Daniel had changed. There was a maturity in his eyes that hadn't been there before. They decided to grab a coffee and catch up. Their conversation was candid and reflective. Daniel apologized for his role in the affair, expressing regret for how things had unfolded. Emily accepted his apology, acknowledging her own responsibility in the situation. They parted on amicable terms, both recognizing that while they couldn't change the past, they could learn from it. As Emily continued on her path of self-discovery, she began to volunteer at a local women's shelter, sharing her experiences and offering support to others facing similar challenges. Helping others gave her a sense of purpose and allowed her to channel her past mistakes into something positive. One evening, after a particularly fulfilling day at the shelter, Emily received a message from Michael. He wanted to meet, claiming he had changed and wished to apologize. Instinctively, Emily felt a twinge of the old excitement but quickly quelled it. She had learned her lesson and knew that reopening that door would only lead to more pain. She responded politely but firmly, letting him know that while she appreciated the gesture, she had moved on and wished him well. It was a small victory but a significant step in asserting control over her life. In time, Emily found peace within herself. She understood that her worth wasn't determined by the attention of men like Michael or Daniel. She realized that she had been searching for validation in others when she needed to find it within herself. One sunny afternoon, while browsing a quaint bookstore, Emily met Lucas, an author who was signing copies of his latest novel. They struck up a conversation about literature, sharing thoughts on favorite authors and the power of storytelling. There was a simplicity in their interaction that felt refreshing, no hidden agendas. Just two people connecting over shared interests. They began to meet regularly, attending literary events and discussing ideas over coffee. Emily was cautious, taking things slowly. She wanted to build a foundation based on honesty and mutual respect. Lucas was patient and understanding, aware of her past but more interested in who she was becoming. As their relationship blossomed, Emily felt a sense of hope. This was different, not the whirlwind of passion that had led her astray before, but a steady, comforting presence that enriched her life. She shared her journey with Lucas, who listened without judgment, offering support and encouragement. Together, they navigated the complexities of a new relationship, mindful of each other's boundaries and committed to open communication. Emily found that the lessons she had learned were valuable tools in fostering a healthy partnership. Looking back, Emily didn't regret her past. Every mistake, every heartache had shaped her into the person she was now. She had learned the importance of self-love, the value of honesty, and the necessity of taking responsibility for one's actions. One evening, as she and Lucas walked along the beach where Alex had once proposed, Emily felt a sense of closure. The waves whispered the same secrets, but this time, they carried a message of forgiveness and new beginnings. She realized that while the path she had taken was fraught with missteps, it had ultimately led her to a place of peace. Life, she understood, was not about perfection but growth. It was about embracing the journey, with all its twists and turns, and finding meaning in every experience. Emily had finally found her footing, ready to step forward into a future she was actively shaping. Emily's story is a tapestry woven with threads of love, betrayal, self-discovery, and redemption. It serves as a poignant reminder that our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves but for those around us. Trust, once broken, is difficult to mend, and seeking happiness at the expense of others often leads to deeper pain. Her journey illustrates the importance of self-reflection and the courage it takes to confront one's own flaws. By facing her insecurities and taking responsibility for her choices, Emily was able to break free from destructive patterns and build a healthier, more fulfilling life. The relationships we nurture with ourselves are just as crucial as those we build with others. Emily learned to value herself, not through the eyes of others, but by recognizing her own worth. This internal validation became the foundation upon which she could establish genuine connections. In the end, Emily's story is not just about the mistakes she made but the resilience she displayed in overcoming them. It's about the transformative power of self-awareness and the possibility of finding redemption through personal growth. Entangled Hearts, A Journey Through Love, Betrayal, and Redemption, is a tale that resonates with many who have grappled with the complexities of relationships and the challenges of personal growth. It underscores the idea that while we cannot change the past, we have the power to shape our future through the choices we make today. Emily's experiences serve as both a cautionary tale and an inspiration. They remind us that it's never too late to make amends, to seek help, and to strive for a better version of ourselves. By embracing honesty, accountability, and self-love, we can navigate the storms of life and emerge stronger on the other side. Betrayal in the midst of grief, a heartbroken wife's journey to healing. The news came suddenly. Becca, my stepdaughter, was gone, taken in a tragic accident, leaving a gaping hole in our lives that seemed impossible to fill. In that moment, my world, my carefully built life, splintered into fragments, each piece a reminder of memories that would never be made. I couldn't imagine the pain I saw in Derek's eyes, her father, or the deep anguish etched onto Sam's face, her mother, Derek's ex-wife, and I too felt that immense loss. Becca had been like my own daughter since she was 7. And I had loved her as if she were my own flesh and blood. In the aftermath, Derek and I made an unusual but, we thought, compassionate decision. Sam had no one else. Her family had drifted away long ago. And without Becca, her life felt desolate. Out of empathy and a shared grief that transcended past relationships, we invited her to stay with us for a while. I wanted to believe that love could manifest even in a blended family, that we could provide her with a small semblance of comfort. But 4 weeks later, I discovered a betrayal that eclipsed even the sorrow of Becca's passing. It was an ordinary Tuesday, and I was scheduled to run some errands, a trip to the post office, a quick grocery run, and a stop at the library. I remember looking back at Sam as I left, curled up on Becca's bed, eyes hollow, wrapped in one of her daughter's sweaters. My heart ached for her. It's hard to describe the feeling of losing a child. But for Sam, I imagined it was something like losing her very soul. Sam, if you want to come with me, I'll wait for you, I offered gently. I thought that maybe getting out of the house would do her good, even if it were just for an hour. No, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'll stay here. I nodded, trying to respect her grief, though I couldn't help but worry. Before leaving, I stopped in Derek's office. Can you check on her while I'm gone? Maybe bring her some tea. Something to eat? Of course, he replied, his voice heavy with sorrow. I'll make sure she's okay. I had only been gone for 30 minutes when I realized I'd left the library book I'd intended to return. Thinking little of it, I turned back toward home. The silence as I entered the house seemed unnatural, almost oppressive, as if it held secrets I was yet to uncover. I heard it faintly at first, an unmistakable sound that left my stomach in knots. Moans, coming from our bedroom. My heart began to race, denial flooding through me, but the sounds persisted, intensifying. I made my way down the hall, each step an eternity, each sound a blow to my chest. When I opened the door, the sight before me confirmed my worst fear, Derek and Sam, entangled in a way that shattered every ounce of trust I'd held in them. What is this? I managed to gasp, my voice barely a whisper as anger, betrayal, and sorrow welled within me, fighting for space in my chest. Derek scrambled, his face awash with guilt and horror. Sam backed away, sobbing, clutching a sheet to her chest as if it could protect her from the shame. It was a mistake, Derek stammered, unable to meet my gaze. We were talking about Becca, remembering, and one thing led to another. One thing led to this? I spat, feeling a strange, sickening calm settle over me. I wanted to scream, but the anger lay too deep for that, like a simmering cauldron just waiting to spill over. Both Derek and Sam broke into apologies, their words blending into a fog of empty excuses. They claimed it was grief, a moment of vulnerability, that they hadn't meant to hurt me, but their explanations felt hollow, as if they could somehow trivialize the weight of their betrayal by pinning it on emotions too big to control. Grief? I echoed, almost laughing at the absurdity. I loved Becca too. Don't you dare try to tell me that this was some coping mechanism. But Derek's eyes were pleading. I didn't mean to hurt you. She kissed me. And I didn't pull back. It was a mistake. Just a lapse. A lapse? I could hardly comprehend what he was saying. How long has this lapse been going on? Since the day we lost Becca. Or long before that? It was then I saw it, the hesitation, the flicker of something else in his eyes. And suddenly, I knew there was more. Much more. The pain in my chest seemed to expand, filling every corner of my being until I could barely breathe. In the days that followed, more truths emerged, each one like a fresh wound. Derek, in a moment of guilt-ridden honesty, admitted that his grieving mistake with Sam had not been a one-time incident. Nor had it begun in the haze of sorrow over Becca's death. It had started months earlier. During the weekend I'd spent visiting my mother. They had rekindled an old spark, feeding it in secret, leaving me oblivious as they tore down the life we'd built. I couldn't believe it. I had opened my home, my heart to both of them. And this was my reward. A husband who betrayed me and a friend who took advantage of my trust. I felt alone, but friends and family rallied around me, showing me kindness that reminded me of my own strength. My mother, whose wisdom had always guided me, encouraged me to see a therapist. Through counseling, I began to understand that sometimes, trust is broken by those closest to us. Not because we are weak but because we dare to believe in the goodness of others. In my therapist's office, I recounted stories of my life with Derek, moments I once believed were happy, only to now view them with suspicion. Yet, each retelling brought clarity, a slow realization that I deserved more than a marriage built on lies. The journey was not easy, nor was it quick, but in time, I found a way to forgive myself for trusting too easily, for seeing the best in people who did not value that gift. I learned that compassion must sometimes have boundaries. That love is not a reason to endure betrayal. Looking back, I see my story not as one of loss but as one of strength. I chose to walk away, to rebuild a life where I could trust myself first and foremost. I found peace not in forgetting but in learning. In grief, I lost a stepdaughter, a husband, and a friend, but I gained an unshakable belief in my own resilience.